Hi, welcome back to Wallflowers. So today you've caught us whilst we are dehydrating some cherry tomatoes. I was really fortunate today when I went to the food initiative we use. The lady said there's plenty of cherry tomatoes going free. So when I explained to her that I'm dehydrating some vegetables at the moment to powder down for some soups ready for winter, she said, help yourself, take as many as you want. So I took 5 paper bags worth. And I'm absolutely made up with them. So what I've done is I've sliced up the majority of them. I've still got a few more in my bowl to do another tray. And I've got them on the highest level on my dehydrator, which is 70. So some go a lot higher, but mine only goes to 70. So they'll probably take anywhere from 12 to 18 hours to dehydrate. So I did some a few days ago, just what I had in the fridge. They're basically just like sun dried tomatoes, and they're absolutely delicious. Mr. Wallflowers and I have already tasted a few, and the flavour in them is fabulous. Excuse me if I talk whilst I'm eating because this takes quite a while to eat, but they're delicious. So we can use these basically on a pizza, in a lasagna, anything that you would cook some dried tomatoes with, or you can have them on a sandwich or just eat them as a snack. As I say, they are lovely. Now I'm going to do some of them as the sun dried tomatoes, but the bulk of them are going to be dried down, and then just excuse me while I go off camera, Mr. Worrell. I haven't cleaned it, I've just used it for the leeks. Once they're dried, I put them in my coffee grinder and I grind them down to a powder, and I'll fill one of these glass jars with them, and we'll have enough to use for soup, stews, anything that we would generally use tomatoes in. So if you use tomato paste, normally people buy tomato paste in a tube. If you use that, once the tomatoes are dried and ground down and they're in the powder form, you just take a couple of tablespoons, put them in a bowl, add a drop of hot water, and stir it to a paste. And there you have a tomato paste that you'd normally buy in a tube, and it's just a couple of tablespoons out the jar. Pretty soon, we're all going to have an abundance of tomatoes anyway. If you grow your own, excuse me, what we've grown in our own gardens. I've only got a couple turning colour wise now, but within the next couple of weeks, we'll be bringing tomatoes in on a daily basis, and they'll be building up and building up. I'm looking forward to that. I quite like it when we're bringing in the harvest. So at that point, I'll be using some fresh, I'll be doing some sun dried, and the rest will be powdered down. So I've got them for the rest of the year. As you know, on this channel, we hopefully are looking for a 12-month quantity to keep us going through the winter summers till we come back to this season next year, and keep it going. So that's the tomatoes. Excuse me because I've still got this going in my mouth. Over the last week or so, obviously the garlic I've been doing a lot longer. I took normal garlic cloves, um, peeled them, diced them, dehydrated them, and then again ground them in the coffee grinder. Added pink Himalayan salt, and I have garlic salt. Now with this, I add it to meals as I'm cooking, but I generally add garlic too. But we like to make our homemade garlic bread with this. So if we haven't got wild garlic on hand, because the best garlic bread you can have is with the foraged wild garlic. If we haven't got that to hand, we can just take normal sandwich bread, any fancy bread you've got available, baguettes, anything at all. But we normally, on a regular basis, will just use sandwich bread. In a saucepan, I pour 2 to 3 spoons of butter. a tablespoon of the garlic salt, stir it all together, and then I'll rub that just like butter on the bread, place it in the oven, heat it up, cook it, and that's our basic garlic bread. And we'll have that quite regularly with any meals that you'd normally have garlic bread as an accompaniment with. So that's the garlic bread. The first one here is basil powder, which basically when I went to one of our local food initiatives again, in the foyer outside, they have a selection of free goods that, if haven't gone in the next day or two, would basically either end up in landfill or, just be wasted. So I managed to grab, I think it was about 4 packets of basil. Some of them were green Thai basil, some of them were just green basil. Did the same, dehydrated it, powdered it down. Any meal calls for basil, and just put a tablespoon or two in that meal, and that's my basil regularly at hand. A few months ago, I was able to get a whole sack of the actual turmeric corns. So again, sliced them up, dehydrated them, and powdered them. And I've got ginger as well. I have a whole jar of ginger. Can I just grab that ginger, Brian? So this is my ginger. I do the same. Bear with me. I pick the ginger up whenever it's available at the food initiatives, chop it down, dry it, and then I spin it in the coffee grinder. I put a oxygen absorber in the jar, and as long as it's free flowing, I'm quite happy with it. If not, like that garlic's gone a bit stiff, I'll just take a knife and knock it down so it's available for the use. But what I'll actually do to this one, because it's stuck in the jar, I'll actually put in a plastic tub on the top, and I'll re-dry that out again. I'll wash the jar, dry the jar out thoroughly, and I'll place it back in. So I'm just re-drying that garlic salt. So I'm not going to throw it away because it's got a bit sticky. I'm going to get the most out of it. So any moisture, it should be free flowing in the jar. The stuff's fully dried and the jar's fully dry, and your powder's free flowing. So that one will be reworked. Again, you can just see a mini oxygen absorber inside the jar. That's probably been left open when I was cooking. Last week I managed to get a full jar of, a full sack, should I say, of leeks. There's about 35 leeks in that sack. And it cost me 50p from the food initiative again, because they had an abundance and they didn't want them to go to waste, so they put them at a really low price. So I grabbed one. Mr. Wallflowers and I have eaten them lots and lots of meals in the last week for me to use them up. I've done buttery leek omelettes. I've put them in soups and stews. I've done different meals with them, and they're absolutely beautiful. So what I did, excuse me, Mr. Wallflowers, what I did was I made a leek and potato soup. We had that for a meal with some crusty bread, and I've now got a further 5 jars of this that can be put away for the winter. I canned it, obviously, vacuum sealed it, and that leek and potato soup will be there just for a quick meal. I can just throw it in the pan, heat it up, a bit of crusty bread, and away we go for a nice, delicious hot meal. The potatoes used in that leek and potato soup are the smallest ones from the harvest from our own beds in the garden. So if you go back, if you've already seen those videos, or if you haven't, you go back. We've done 2 harvests of our potato beds this year so far. Some have come out a decent size. We can use for boiled potatoes, mashed potatoes, chips, etc. Some were really tiny that we threw back in. We'll use as chips for them to grow again. And the middle sized ones, just a bit bigger from knuckle to thumbnail. I keep those and I use those for soups and stews, and that's exactly what was used for that leek and potato soup. So nothing's gone to waste. It doesn't matter if they're tiddly. I left the skins on, I brushed them, cleaned them, left the skins on, used them with the leeks for the leek and potato soup. I think I put 3 tablespoons of thyme in, which I've previously dried, powdered, and kept in a jar as well. So that's the leek and the ginger. If I'm making a sauce for a stew, a casserole, or something, I want that flavour. I use a tablespoon of the ginger and a tablespoon of the turmeric. That's a beautiful sauce. It's got a really nice flavour to it, and I feel those two flavours go really nice together. We like it, don't we? So that's the leeks, the ginger, the turmeric, the basil, the garlic salt, and this one is shop bought spinach. Now it just only looks like a little bit because as you dehydrate and powder it, it goes down to so little. It takes an awful lot to fill the jar. So we generally buy a bag of spinach a week from the shops, especially when we haven't got any to bring in from the garden allotment. So we'll buy quite a large bag, excuse me, of spinach from the shop. Now, generally, we'd use half the bag, and then the second half of the bag would have wilted, so that would go in the compost bin. Yes, although we get the soil from that, I feel the vegetables somehow wasted, although we do incorporate in regrowing. Now I've discovered doing the powders, and that spinach is a really good one. This week, straight away, once I bought that bag of spinach, I took the top half out and put it straight in the dehydrator. Did that. So that's half a bag. Look, there's next to nothing there really. So it's going to take quite a few bags to fill that. And we kept the second half. We like it for sandwiches, salads, etc. So yeah, I'm gonna still keep collecting the ginger and carry on making sure that's topped up. Keep collecting the tomatoes, make sure I've got enough of those. And I'm going to build up my collection of powders. So I've got plenty of flavourings, plenty of soup ingredients, stew ingredients, and as I say, they will store for quite a long time. You prompted me, Mr. Wallflowers. I also made a strawberry and rhubarb jam this week. So my strawberries weren't successful in the garden allotment this year. I got a few and they're okay for picking. I've done strawberry and blackcurrants, and I've made um, jam, flapjacks, different fruit cakes and things with them, but not enough for me to start jamming with, which I've previously had. And the reason why this year that's happened is last year I decided to do a new strawberry garden, as it were. I took some milk bottles and I cut them into containers, and I actually took the best of my tomato plant, not tomatoes, strawberry plants out of the strawberry bed, put them in these milk bottle containers, and I had about 30 hanging on a wall. And I thought, in that dark corner, it's not a dark corner, but in that corner, it would be the ideal situation to grow the strawberries in an upright position on the walls. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and I lost nearly every one of those large strawberry plants. So I'm having to look at replacing them this year. If you know me by now, you know I won't be going out paying full price for those plants in a garden centre. I'll be waiting till the season dies down. I'll go and see if I can get them for 5 pence, 10 pence each, or if any of my local friends give me runners or different things, I'll take advantage of that if and when they're available. So I've got that at the back of my mind now, knowing I have to refill that strawberry bed, so I've got enough for next year. I managed to get 5 jars of the strawberry and rhubarb jam, and it took 8 stalks, really nice big stalks, of the rhubarb from the garden. So I've got, I think I counted them, a further 24 stalks at least. So that's 3 more lots of strawberry and rhubarb jam. But as I say, I'll either have to wait to see if I can get the bulk strawberries from the Food Initiative, or I'll actually have to put the money in and buy those strawberries. But it's so tasty. It's really tasty. The rhubarb isn't overpowering. It just adds a fruitiness to the strawberry flavour. It's really tasty, and I'm glad I made it. It's the first time I've made rhubarb and strawberries together. Nice on toast. It'll be nice in cakes and biscuits, etc. What I choose to make on ice cream, anything like that. So, as I say, this will be on for 8 to 12 hours. Once I take these off and put them in my container to use for us to use this week, finish chopping the last of them up, get them on this tray. They'll all go with that, and then I'll be wishing it along so I can do a bit more spinach that I've managed to get today. I've got the ginger to dehydrate. At one stage, I did have two dehydrators, and both of them were gifted to me, which I'm really grateful of. But earlier last year, I did a prize draw on the channel, and we gave one of those away. And it was a lovely lady. She won it, and I do believe that she's gone on now and she is actually dehydrating stuff on a regular basis herself. I think the first thing she told me that she was doing was something connected to the potpourri. So that's great. You know, someone else has picked up the baton and they're going to do their own things, because I've never done anything with the potpourri before. Rose leaves and different things like rose petals and things like that. So yeah, what are you doing that you haven't seen me do that you'd like me to have a look at? And are you jamming at the moment, or making soups, or doing some dehydrating and preserving? Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.